Hello and good evening. We are told that in the last days there will be such deception and illusion that the world will fall. We are even told in Matthew that we will read or hear, look, here is Christ, and people will fall for the great illusion. We are told that people say, oh, here is Christ on the mountain, here is Christ here. And many people will fall for the deception. So we are building right now towards this climax. We are building towards this disaster. What's interesting is that the Pentagon are now saying that UFOs are real. But since 1950s, 1940s, the Pentagon, the Russian government have always been researching this, UFO and wanted to find out more about this mysterious universal things that are taking place. They've always been fascinated with this UFO phenomena, what is causing it, and even having secret experiments. They says, well, it's not for you, the public, it's not for you, it's for us. And despite not wanting to disclose this information to the public, is not fit for us commoners, then suddenly, fast track to the future, 2021, now the government are telling the masses, we were asleep, we were trying to battle with the present phenomena, COVID, with Bill Gates trying to force his willpower onto the masses to fall for his bidding, to read from the same music sheet that he is providing for the world. So we've been, in a way, subdued. We've been controlled. Our minds were like putty, not knowing whether we were coming or going. And then suddenly, bam! The government says, wait for the shock. Now is the time for the world, for the church, to embrace and open themselves to the UFO. We must embrace and open ourselves. We must accept. Now it's like if you're having a dinner or a party and you send out invitations to people. Come on, come in. You'll say, come into my house. Come into my house, into my private domain. You are invited. You are a VIP. They say we must invite, embrace the UFO. What's interesting is, if you're ever familiar with the 1980s phenomenon where people were dabbling with Ouija boards, it was a craze amongst teenagers before social media. And everybody was indulging in Ouija boards, and they were inviting entities and spirits, let's call it UFOs. Government research. Now we are in a state of mind where we don't think for ourselves. We cannot, if you like, express our freedom of will, our freedom of opinion, our freedom of values. We have become robots. Nobody dare resist what the government is doing to us. They manipulate our behavior, our values, our thoughts, what we represent, our faith. When they've done this to us, we're then in the predicament where they can say to us, accept and embrace any and everything That was how they brought in the sexual revolution. They broke us down. They threatened our jobs. Unless we embrace this and embrace these sexual freak shows, then we will attack your livelihood, your job. And that's how they program you and brainwash you until we're such a state now. If the government say to us, we must accept and embrace the UFOs, or what darkness really is beyond the universe that they claim they've been experimenting with. How can you be experimenting with something in a laboratory and then suddenly you're saying that we must embrace and accept something in space? It doesn't make sense. If what you were experimenting in a laboratory, we should be accepting what you were experimenting with, not something else in space that you claim you don't know what it is, but we must embrace it. Let me quickly just read something. And what they're now saying, while the Pentagon is saying this, other places are saying that if we make contact with these beings, UFO, these beings, it will be the end of the human race. If we make contact with these beings, it is the end of the human race. There have always been these conspiracy theorists who have always claimed that the government were doing researches since the 1950s, and in fact, what's his name? Clint Eastwood did a film called Changeling. You'd be surprised some of the demonic things that the government get up to. But sadly, since COVID and the pandemic, we have put our trust in these demonic governments who have a conflict of interest. They don't care about your soul. They don't care. They have an agenda, and we don't know what music sheet they are singing from. We don't know where their loyalties are, whom they are worshipping, whom they sold their souls to. But they are saying that we're forced. Notice, you're mandated. I'm sure you're familiar with the term mandatory. You have no choice. They've used that term in every other sphere of our lives during the pandemic. It's a mandate. It's a mandate. The V, Bill Gates V. It's a mandate that you accept this universe, these UFOs, these beings. You have no choice. They've also forced the church to embrace other things which goes against our Bibles, our faith. So if we think that, oh no, we're not going to fall for this, all they have to do is create, what do you call it, a hologram rapture, a fake rapture. And many Christians will fall. We're already falling for the government agenda. You know, there's a reason why the government are investing in this hologram. There's a reason why. There's a reason. They are planning a big satanic, universal wonderment. And the world and the church will fall for it. We've already fallen. We've already compromised. We've already compromised our biblical truth and values. We've already become greedy and materialist and less spiritual. So we are easy prey for this rapture. We're easy prey for this great wonderment. that they've got planned. We've got no choice. They've already broken us down, forced us to do whatever they want. And we did it without even a fight. Without even a Mike Tyson fight, we did it. So imagine the big satanic picture, the hologram, the fake rapture that they've got planned for you. And you say, I'm strong, I'm not gonna fall. Really? 3/4 of the churches have already fallen for the liberal LGBTQ agenda. We are told in the last days the deception will be so great. Will I find faith? Are you calling Jesus a liar? He said that in the last days, the deception, the illusion, the Antichrist was so powerful. Will I find faith? Meaning the whole world will be deceived. Nearly the whole world nearly will be deceived. With this UFO, this fake rapture, this hologram. There's a reason why the government want to plan the Great Reset. The Great Reset. The reprogramming of your minds. Taking away your will, your human rights. Because when they break you down, then they can plan this big universal satanic power they call the UFO. I want to do many more in this series. I've been researching and there's some shocking things. But let me just continue for a while. It's interesting that there are people who are claiming that they were abducted by UFOs. Abducted. Look, when you hear about, I don't think I want to do a video on, these people who claim that they get out-of-body experiences. Out-of-body experiences. UFOs. Body abduction. The rapture. It's the same kind of language. The same kind of language. And that's the great illusion that's going to be swept across the world. And believe me, when Christ says, will I find faith? The government are plotting something big. And don't forget, every time the government attack all these conspiracy theorists, guess who turned out to be speaking the truth? And guess who turned out to be a liar? The Bible says, let God be true and every man a liar. Sooner or later, the truth always comes out. But you have to make sure that your soul is not in peril and you end up believing the government lies. I mean, I could go on for hours and how much the government has lied from day one. But this is not the opportunity at the moment. I will make further videos regarding this area. But it's interesting that people are reporting they've been abducted. And there's a group on Facebook, Christian group, and they're obsessed with the rapture, obsessed with it. And they're using text of the Bible, which has nothing to do with the rapture. And you think something does not make any sense. They're building a facade, an illusion, preparing for the great illusion, the great awakening, the great New Age consciousness, the great Christ consciousness, New Age Christ consciousness, the vibration, the UFO. And people are going to fall for it in the name of love, peace, and tolerance. And the government are trying to get us to tap into this vibration and accept it. They're telling the world, accept it, while other scientists are telling us that if we do, it'll be the end of mankind. You have been warned. We are in last days. You have been warned.